They wanted to build an empire, a new real brand, freedom, power, and total control over their own story. But behind the perfect photos and the crafted smiles, something is cracking. The illusion of unity is breaking, and those close to them say, this time, it might be irreversible. For years, Meghan and Harry played the part. The brave couple who escaped the system. The heroes who walked away from the palace to start fresh. They'd stood hand in hand, saying they didn't need the crown, that they could be bigger without it. For a while, it worked. Netflix deals, Spotify, media headlines, an oceanfront mansion in Montecito. Everything screams success. But what happens when the story you built begins to collapse under its own weight? Sources close to their circle say the tension started quietly. The first cracks appeared months ago when Meghan began pushing new projects, new appearances, new strategies, all focused on her personal brand. Harry, meanwhile, was retreating, spending more time alone, turning down events, avoiding cameras. The contrast was impossible to ignore. He looked tired, detached, like a man watching his world slip away. And people around them began to whisper, are they still a team or just two separate forces trying to survive under one roof? This isn't the first time we've heard of tension between them. But what's different now is the tone. It's colder, more calculated. The kind of silence that doesn't end in a fight but in distance. Insiders describe moments where Meghan speaks for both of them, where Harry just nods, eyes unfocused, lost in thought. At public events, they stand side by side, but they don't really look at each other. You can see it in the body language, the slight delay before they touch hands, the forced smiles that fade too fast. It's not hate. It's exhaustion. Two people who fought the world together, now quietly fighting to stay connected to each other. Friends say Harry feels trapped, not by Meghan, but by the image they created together. Every step, every move is branded, filmed, monetized. The man who once fought to protect his privacy now lives inside a narrative he can't control. Every headline turns into a weapon, every silence into a scandal. Then Meghan, she's playing a different game, one that requires her to stay visible, relevant, unstoppable. She knows the media cycle, she knows the stakes. For her, fading into the background isn't an option, not after everything they sacrifice. So she moves forward, new appearances, new connections, new ambitions. That's the conflict at the heart of it all. One chasing peace, the other chasing power, and between them, the wreckage of a story that started as love and turned into a global brand. Observers described their recent trip together as surreal. The cameras caught every second, the smiles, the hand-holding, the gentle gestures. But behind those lenses, witnesses noticed something else. A lack of warmth. Harry's eyes distant, Meghan's energy focused outward, toward the flashing lights, the influencers, the deals. This is no longer just about a marriage. It's about identity. Who are they when they're not performing? What's left when the cameras turn off? Their team still insists everything is fine, that rumors are exaggerated. But those who've seen them up close tell a different story. They talk about separate bedrooms, late-night arguments about direction, strategy, reputation. They talk about a man torn between love and regret, and a woman determined to never lose again. The irony is painful. They escaped the palace to find freedom, but built another palace, made of contracts, cameras, and constant exposure. And just like before, the walls are starting to close in. And now, whispers grow louder. Meghan's new project, Harry's silence, the friends who no longer visit. Something is shifting, and this time, it feels permanent. Because when two people who built their world on shared rebellion start rebelling against each other, the story changes. And what comes next might be the most explosive chapter. For Meghan, survival has always meant strategy. Every move, every step, every word is calculated. She doesn't make noise for attention. She builds anticipation. Behind the scenes, she's already 3 steps ahead of everyone else. While Harry hesitates, Meghan acts. And right now, insiders say she's planning her boldest move yet. Those close to her describe a woman who refuses to fade. She knows how quickly the world forgets. One wrong headline, one missed opportunity, and the narrative shifts. Meghan understands the cost of silence. She lived it inside the palace, where every gesture was controlled, every opinion filtered. Never again, she told herself, never again would she let someone else write her story. That's why she's been quietly building her next empire, a new media venture, new partnerships, and yes, a new version of herself. The Meghan we see now isn't the one who left the royal family crying over tabloids. She's sharper, colder, hungrier. People around her say she's learned how to weaponize perception. Every outfit, every event, every quote is deliberate. Even her moments of vulnerability are curated to connect. She's crafting an image, not just as a duchess, not just as a celebrity, but as a force of her own. The brand Meghan Markle is evolving, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Her new strategy began months ago when she reconnected with several high-profile Hollywood producers. Those meetings weren't about friendship. They were negotiations. Meghan wants to reconnect her identity as an independent woman, not as half of a royal couple. That's her next chapter. She's tired of being Harry's wife. She wants to be the headline, not the footnote. And that's exactly where the tension begins. Because while Meghan is leaning into the spotlight again, Harry is pulling away from it. Insiders describe meetings where he stays silent, uncomfortable with the direction she's taking. He feels the spotlight is poison. She feels it's oxygen. And when one partner needs air and the other fears drowning, the gap only widens. Those who know Meghan best say she sees this as her make or break moment. The Netflix deal is fading. The Spotify contracts collapsed. Public sympathy is thin. She needs a win, something big enough to shift the narrative. That's why she's taking control. New PR team, new image strategy, no alliances. Some even whisper about a move back to acting, a return that would send shockwaves through Hollywood. But to understand Meghan's mindset, you have to remember where she came from. A woman who fought her way into the industry, who built herself from nothing, who learned to navigate power by proximity. She knows the game. She's played it her entire life. The difference now is that she's not just playing it. She's rewriting it. People underestimate how ruthless the entertainment world can be. For Meghan, it's not about fame. It's about narrative dominance. She's not chasing applause. She's chasing control. Control of the message, control of the image, control of the story. Because when she controls the story, she controls the legacy. And make no mistake, she's aware of the backlash. She reads the headlines, the mockery, the criticism. She knows how she's perceived. Ambitious, manipulative, opportunistic. But she also knows something her critics forget. Every powerful woman in history was called the same thing before she won. Her circle says she's not interested in defending herself anymore. She's preparing to outlast them all. And to do that, she's cutting ties, changing alliances, and moving fast. There are whispers that some of Harry's old friends have been quietly removed from their social orbit. Others claim Meghan is recruiting new faces, younger, more media savvy, more loyal. But even her biggest supporters admit this new chapter comes with a cost. The more Meghan pushes forward, the more Harry feels left behind. It's not just emotional distance anymore, it's ideological. She sees the future as brand expansion. He sees it as soul erosion. Still, Meghan isn't slowing down. Her focus is relentless. Every morning, every meeting, every appearance, all part of the same machine. The tone is sharper, the smiles shorter, the patience thinner. Those close to her describe late-night calls with strategists, days packed with branding sessions, and an energy that feels urgent, almost desperate, because somewhere deep down, Meghan knows what's at stake. If this move fails, if the public turns completely, if the empire she's building collapses, there might not be a way back. Not for her image, not for her marriage, not for the story she spent years constructing. But that's the risk she's willing to take. Because for Meghan, the alternative, silence, obscurity, irrelevance, is worse than failure. And so she moves. Faster, louder, stronger. Even if it means leaving Harry behind in the process. Because to Meghan, this isn't just survival, it's war. There was a time when Harry's voice could silence a room, when his words carried the weight of rebellion, pain, and truth. But now that voice has become quieter, hesitant, as if every sentence is weighed against the fear of another headline. The man who once exposed the monarchy's wounds is now watching his own story spin out of control. Those who've seen him lately describe a man searching for peace and finding none. The smile is there. The charm still flickers. But behind his eyes, there's something else. Doubt, fatigue, a haunting question that he can't shake off. What if he's lost himself in the very war he started? For Harry, freedom was supposed to be salvation. He left the palace to escape the walls, the rules, the constant judgment. But the world outside turned out to be louder, harsher, and infinitely more demanding. Inside the monarchy, every move was monitored. Outside, every move is monetized. He traded the crown for cameras, the institution for the algorithm, the silence of duty for the noise of public opinion. And somewhere along that road, he lost his compass. People close to him say he spends more time alone now. Long walks on the beach near Montecito. Hours in his study, scrolling through news he wishes he could ignore. Friends say he rarely reaches out anymore. Even when he does, it's cautious, measured, as if every friendship carries the risk of betrayal. There's one phrase he's been repeating lately, according to a source. I just wanted to tell the truth. But truth in the world Harry lives in now is never simple. Every confession becomes a brand. Every tear becomes a headline. Every silence becomes a story someone else writes. And that's what eats at him. The realization that his voice, once his greatest weapon, has become the very thing that traps him. Insiders talk about his growing discomfort with Meghan's pace, her hunger for exposure. He loves her deeply, but love doesn't erase exhaustion. It doesn't erase a fear that maybe the more they build together, the less of himself he recognizes. There's a moment one friend recalls when Harry looked up during a dinner and said, almost to himself, "We keep saying we escaped, but I don't feel free." That sentence has lingered ever since. He misses simplicity, the kind that's impossible now. The quiet mornings in the army, the laughter of his old friends, the moments where he wasn't a brand or a target, just a person. But the past isn't a place he can return to, and the present is a spotlight that never turns off. His book, his interviews, his confessions, they brought catharsis, yes, but also consequences. Each truth he revealed about the royal family carved deep a distance between him and the life he once knew. His brother would speak to him. His father keeps communication strictly formal. The Queen is gone, and with her, the last thread that tied him to forgiveness. So Harry sits in the world he created, open, loud, modern, and wonders if he can still breathe in it. Those around him say he's begun questioning the direction of everything. The business deals, the cameras, the endless content. He's asked more than once, when does that stop? But there's no stopping when your life is the product. And that's where his breaking point begins. People assume Harry's anger is aimed at the media, but it's deep than that. His frustration is existential. He fought to protect his mother's memory from the tabloids, only to find himself trapped in the same machine, selling pain for attention, trauma for clicks. He wanted transparency, but transparency without control is exposure, and exposure is its own kind of prison. Even his relationship with Meghan, once the symbol of freedom, now feels like a battlefield of opposing needs. She thrives in visibility, he craves silence. She builds, he retreats. The tension isn't explosive, it's corrosive, slow, inevitable. There are rumors of late-night arguments about direction, about image, about what kind of legacy they're building. People close to them describe Harry as emotionally raw, torn between his duty to the woman he loves and his instinct to protect what's left of himself. One insider said he's not angry, he's heartbroken. And maybe that's the truth. Maybe Harry's story was never about rebellion, it was about grief. The grief of losing his mother, his family, his privacy, and slowly, piece by piece, himself. He wanted to build something new, something pure. But the world doesn't allow purity when it smells profit. The same cameras that once destroyed his peace now demand his performance. And every time he steps in front of them, he betrays the part of himself that wanted to disappear. It's why he's been distant in public appearances, why his answers sound rehearsed, why his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. Because the man who once walked behind his mother's coffin, watched by millions, is still walking, this time behind the coffin of his own peace. And yet he keeps going, out of love, out of obligation, out of habit. But everyone close to him can feel it. Something's changing. The patience is fading. The weight is growing. The distance is stretching thin. And one day soon, that silence inside him, the one that's been building for years, will finally break. When it does, the world won't be ready for what he says next. They still appear together, smiling, coordinated, perfectly in sync, for the cameras at least. From the outside, nothing seems broken. The hand-holding, the soft gestures, the matching looks, all the signals of harmony are still there. But those who know them can see it instantly. Something's missing, something essential. The connection that once felt electric now feels rehearsed. Every time they step onto a red carpet, it's a performance. One they've both mastered but no longer believe in. The crowd sees royalty reborn, They see the script they can't stop reading from. At the charity gala last month, Meghan's energy filled the room. She was radiant, confident, precise with every movement. Harry stood beside her, polite and supportive, but distant. When the cameras flashed, he smiled. When they turned away, his face went blank. Later that night, a guest described them standing by the exit. Meghan chatting animatedly with a producer, Harry staring into the distance. She reached for his hand. He hesitated, then took it. Not out of love, but out of duty, out of muscle memory. It's moments like that which reveal the truth. The partnership still functions, but the warmth has cooled. They're bound not by passion, but by momentum, by the brand, the commitments, the empire they've built. Too much money, too much attention, too much expectation to simply walk away. Behind closed doors, things are quieter. Conversations shorter. Plans more separate. Their schedules rarely overlap now. Meghan's days filled with calls, strategy, and upcoming projects. Harry's spent mostly alone, sometimes traveling without her. They share a house, but not always a life. Still, in interviews, they speak as one. They talk about unity, shared purpose, family. But the tone has changed. It's professional, controlled, carefully edited. Gone is the spontaneity that once made them unpredictable. Everything now is filtered, structured, timed to perfection. But even perfection cracks under pressure. Recently, an insider revealed something unexpected. Meghan has been discussing a potential move back to Los Angeles. Closer to the industry, closer to opportunity. But Harry isn't convinced. For him, Montecito is the last place that still feels private. Leaving it would mean surrendering completely to the machine he's already trying to escape. That disagreement, quiet, unseen, might be the real breaking point. Because this time, it's not about headlines or strategy. It's about what kind of life they actually want. Meghan dreams of visibility. Harry dreams of silence. And no amount of love or loyalty can erase that difference. People around them describe the atmosphere as fragile, polite but tense, respectful but detached. Meghan pushes forward with her vision. Harry drifts further inward. They still meet in the middle, still show up together, still protect the image. But the space between them grows with every event, every trip, every decision. The irony is brutal. They once defied a monarchy for love. Now they're trapped inside their own version of it. A palace made of cameras and contracts. And just like before, there's no escape without scandal. In recent weeks, a few close friends have started whispering something they never dared to say before. Maybe this story doesn't end with reconciliation. Maybe it ends with reinvention. Two people, once united by purpose, finally forced to choose between what they built together and who they've become apart. If that sounds dramatic, it's because it is. This isn't just a relationship. It's a global narrative, a modern myth built on defiance and ambition. And the world is addicted to its twists. Every look, every silence, every rumor becomes fuel for speculation. Even doing nothing has become a statement. But here's the cruel truth. There's no version of this story where they simply fade away. The machine won't allow it. The audience won't allow it. They are the product, and the product must keep moving. So they keep performing together. And yet sometimes, in rare, unguarded moments, a spark of the old connection still appears. A glance, a smile, fleeting second when they seem to forget the cameras. It's small, fragile, but real. Proof that under the machinery, under the pressure, under the exhaustion, there's still something left. That's what makes it tragic, not because it's gone, but because it still exists in fragments. Those who know them say both Meghan and Harry are aware of this. They feel it, but neither knows how to fix it without losing everything else. To step back now would be to admit defeat. To step forward might destroy what little remains. And so they stay here, in this strained middle ground between love and legacy, between freedom and fame, between truth and performance. Maybe they still believe that the next chapter will save them. A new project, a new direction, a new beginning. Or maybe they already know the truth. That this was never a story meant to have a happy ending, only an unforgettable one. Because in the end, that's what they've become. A symbol. A reflection of what happens when love collides with ambition. When freedom turns into a brand. When two people build a kingdom without realizing it's made of glass. And the cracks are already there. The world is watching. Waiting. Anticipating the moment when the next headline drops. When the next revelation shatters what's left of the illusion. But until then, they'll smile for the cameras, hold hands in front of the crowd, and play their roles to perfection. Because they know the truth. Once the performance ends, there's no going back. This isn't the end of their story. It's the beginning of its final act.